Hello and welcome. My name is Bashir Fadl, and on behalf of LearnITCoursesOnline.com as well as LearnJobsOnline.com, I'd like to thank you. We do know that you have a variety of choices of IT training, and you've chosen us, so we really appreciate that and hope that you enjoy it. Thank you. In this session, we'll be talking about the approval process in Salesforce. In every business, we normally have an approval process. For example, you have a business, a store, a restaurant, where any of your employees, if an invoice comes up to $100, they can pay it. But if it's more than $100, then you need the shift supervisor to pay it and approve it. Otherwise, it will not be approved. Up to $1,000. And then the shift supervisor will need a manager's approval. Manager can approve up to $1,000, but anything more than that, they need the president of the company, the CEO of the company, to sign up on it. So this is an example of an approval process which we would have varieties of in most of our businesses. So what then is an approval process in Salesforce? An approval process in Salesforce are basically automated processes where every organization uses to approve its records. In Salesforce approval process, there are a number of steps involved to approve a record in that object or the one records which satisfies the rule criteria. Now, important points to be considered before creating an approval process in Salesforce would be, number one, we want to make sure we have an entry criteria for approval process in Salesforce. That must be defined. Number two, an approval request email template must be created. Number three, we should gather approval request sender details. Number four, determine who is the assigned approver and delegate approver. Number five, we must know whether the approval process needs a filter logic or not. Number six, we must create initial submission actions like email alerts, field updates, tasks, outbound messages, updating customer approval process field to in progress, for instance. Number seven, we can set up permissions that users can request approval from a wireless device. Number eight, and also we can determine that the user can edit records that are awaiting approval. And then number nine, we have to assign the actions when an approval request is approved or rejected. So now we move to creating a Salesforce approval process. Now let's consider an example where all invoices which are greater than $1,000, the invoice must be approved by the supervisor. So step number one is we go to Setup, click on Build, click on Create, click on Workflow and Approval, and then click on Approval Process. Or we can simply go to Setup and then search for Workflow and Approvals and click on Approval Process. Then we click on the approval process as shown. So in step one, we enter the name and description for the new approval process, and then click on the next button. So now in this step, we have to select the object, select invoice as shown, and to create the new approval process, we have two options. Jumpstart, which involves few steps to create new Salesforce approval process, and or the standard setup wizard, which involves all configuration options while creating new Salesforce approval process. So now in step two, we specify the rule criteria. In this step, we have to specify the rule criteria, which are the record that are eligible for approval process. As per our requirements, we have defined where the invoice amount is greater than $1,000, the record must be sent to approval process. We can also group multiple entry criteria. Now we move to step three, in which we specify the approver field and record editability properties. It's about the approver, select the manager as the approver, and then click on the next button. So now we move to step 4, where we select the notification templates. So before creating the approval process, we have to create our email template, and then email will be sent to the approver. So we select the email template and click on the next button. Next, we move to step 5, where we select fields to display on the approval page layout. In this step, we have to select the fields from available fields to selected fields. Selected fields will be displayed on the approver page layout, and then we click on the next button. In step 6, we specify the initial submitters. So in this step, we have to define who are eligible to submit the record for approval, like owner, group, creator, or user. Select the submitter type, select the page layout, submission settings, and then click on the Save button. And so as we can see, we have two sections, which are active approval process and inactive approval process. The approval process which we created is not active, so it is available in inactive approval process. So click on approval process name, and as we enter to review, this gives the whole details about the approval process. What is the name, entry criteria, status, email template, initial submission actions, and so on. Once the initial submission action is done, the records gets locked by default. So in conclusion, we have created a Salesforce approval process successfully and also learned about what is approval process in Salesforce. With this, we come to the end of this session, and we'd like to thank you for joining us. And also, don't hesitate to visit our website at learnitcoursesonline.com to leave your feedback and reviews. And also look at our events. We have a lot of free sessions, and we'd be more than happy to have you join at any given time, and also sign up with us for our newsletter. Thank you and have a wonderful time.